Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Excel Pivot Tables webinar. My name is Juan Cuellar from OfficePro, and I will be your instructor. Let's start off by taking a look at what we're going to cover today. We're going to start off by taking a look at some of the basics and understanding how pivot tables work and what they're going to do for us. Then we're going to take a look at how to get a pivot table started by creating it, customizing it by adding fields in the different sections, and then updating the pivot table when you have dynamic data. And then we're going to wrap up by creating slicers so that our pivot tables are a lot more user-friendly so that we can share it and people can interact with it. So let's go ahead and get started. You should have received a pivot Excel file. I'm going to ask if you follow along with me and open it up. Now, this is intended to be an interactive webinar, a hands-on webinar. So if you have double monitors on your computer, I would recommend that you put your screen on one monitor and put my screen on the second one. That way you can follow along with me. However, if you only have one monitor, that's all right. What I'll do is I'll cover a topic, and then I'll demo how to execute it, and I'll give a minute or two for you guys to give it a shot. But at any point, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt and let me know if you have any questions. Now, first of all, understanding pivot tables. So what are pivot tables? Pivot tables is I feel one of the most underutilized features of Excel. And I feel that a lot of people are intimidated by pivot tables, yet they're very easy to use. The tricky part is finding the right combination to get the data that you need out of it. Now, before you can ever start working with pivot tables, a key point is understanding the data that you're going to be working with. See, ideally what pivot tables do is they allow you to pull statistical information from your raw data that without pivot tables it would be pretty difficult to do. Now, if you see here in the pivot Excel file that we opened up, that you should have received, we have it's a small table. It's not too much data, but it'll still show us the benefits of pivot tables. Now again, the first thing is really understanding what the data is. And you can see that we have a column for sales reps, the date, the month, the sales amount, the product, the region, the year, purchaser, as well as profits. So it's clear to see that what we have here is a list of sales records. All right, so now that we understand what the data is, what is the pivot table going to do for us? Well, again, a pivot table is going to allow us to extract information from this data that otherwise, using other methods, it would be pretty time-consuming and difficult to do. Now, one key thing to recognize when you're working with pivot tables and just a data set like this is that you want to ensure that there is no breaks within your table. Let me give you an example. If you ever have a data set that has an empty row, a completely empty row or column, such as row 14 that I just inserted, what Excel is going to do is it's going to consider this two different pieces of information. So it breaks up your data. So you want to try to avoid that. Now, one recommendation that I give you for working with pivot tables is start with a question. What question are you wanting to answer from your data? So let me give you an example of the question that we're going to try to answer today. I'm looking at these sales records here, and the question that I come up with is, what is the monthly total sales by region per product? So if I'm looking at this data and that's the question I'm trying to answer, yeah, I'd probably be able to come up with the answer for each of those products, but it'll be very time consuming. However, with pivot tables, that'll streamline our process. Now, another recommendation is if you have a data set like this, I would recommend you format this as an Excel table. What that's going to do is it's going to streamline the updating of the data if you need to add or remove records. So here's what we're going to do. Just click anywhere inside your data. It doesn't really matter what cell, but just make sure you have one cell in your data selected. We're going to go to the Home tab. And then we're going to go to the Format as Table dropdown. Now, Excel is going to give you a variety of different styles to choose from. So just find one you like, click on it, and it's going to give you a little dialog box identifying the entire range of the data and asking if your table has headers. Now, this set of data does have headers, so we're going to make sure that is checked, and then we're going to click OK. Now, this additional step is an optional step, but notice that now that we have formatted our data as an Excel table, we have the Table Tools Design tab here. Once we go to that tab, all the way to the far left, you're going to see a table name field where you can name the set of data. So I'm going to just call it sales. Press enter to confirm, and then we're good to go. All right, so I'm going to give you a minute. Give that a shot, and let me know if you have any questions.